We don't fix the existing system by fighting it. We fix it by making the old system obsolete. And I'd say the third thing that I've learned, especially recently, is that I've needed to swallow my pride and just straight up ask for compensation for the services that I provide for my community because I have 140,000 audio and video downloads on my podcast every month. Like most people can name every psyop that is occurring across the world right now, or every event that's occurring across the world, and they have no freaking clue what the water department is doing in their local town or village or city. The biggest element of mind control is using social media algorithms to both show things that confirm one's own biases based on their political preferences, things like this, while simultaneously showing them the most extreme versions of anyone who thinks differently than they do.
Completely.
And that just deepens the divide. Who am I being on a day-to-day basis? More than that, like, because that implies you need to consider the past and the future. Who am I being right now? You might notice some tension in your body. Why do I feel that tension? What is my physiology trying to express about my psyche, about my spirit? What's at odds inside me? Am I adding to the chaos of the world in this moment, or am I adding to the coherence of the world in this moment?
Right, a big welcome back to the Deprogrammed series on the Live, Love, Learn podcast. And as you know, I'm your host, Catherine Edwards. And on this series, we have conversations about health, freedom, sovereignty, and really what it actually takes to live well when so much of what we're taught turns out to be inverted and nothing is off limits. So today you are in for a treat because I'm so delighted to be joined by Alec Zeck, who is a husband and father of three. Congratulations on that. Independent researcher, former US Army captain, host of the Way Forward podcast, which is fantastic, and founder of the Way Forward community platform, which helps people reconnect to real world solutions through decentralization, education, and local connection. Now, Alec's work is really diverse. I mean, I'm sure many of you would have listened to his podcast, but like me, nothing is off limits for him. And he goes well beyond exposing problems, asking harder questions about responsibility, self-worth, discernment, and really how we live day to day once the old narratives start to fall apart. So I'm really looking forward to see where this conversation leads us, because for me, new year, new insight. So a big welcome, Alec. How are you doing?
I'm good, Catherine. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
It's such a pleasure. I really wanted to dive straight in, actually. 2026, new year. Where's your focus at the moment?
Oh, that's a big question.
Mm,
I mean, my focus is where it's been for, I'd say, predominantly over the last calendar year, so the last 12 months or so. And that's trying to help people connect in like-minded community locally, wherever they are across the world. Because I feel like so much of the health, truth, freedom, consciousness, whatever you want to call this intersection of all these things that all of us like to explore, you explore it on your show, I explore it on my show. Um, those who get it, I guess you could say, we become so fixated with these. This
yeah,
is where we turn to for our connection, and it's not real. Can we get some good information, learn some things, maybe laugh a little bit, feel validated? Absolutely. I wouldn't be doing what I was doing in the world right now if it weren't for these devices. We wouldn't be reaching the people we're reaching if it weren't for these devices. But I feel like we're at a point where, for a lot of us, we've consumed enough information. We've we're sort of burnt out with the digital space. And I say that ironically while still recording podcasts myself, and people still tune in, and I'd imagine it's the same for you. And I still use these devices on a day-to-day basis. But we all feel that something is not right with that deep down inside of us. But then in our day-to-day lives, we look up to our left and our right, and we feel like no one around us really gets it like we do. We don't feel validated. We don't feel seen. We actually might feel small. We might feel that we have to be quiet. Or on the other side of that, we might feel that we have to be so loud to make up for the lack of people around us who get it. But I'm truly willing to bet there are more people in our vicinity, wherever we are across the world, who get it to a certain degree than we
Yeah.
realize. But there hasn't been up to this point a way to really connect those people. For some, it's like, yeah, I know, for example, in England, I forget exactly where, but you guys have what's called Forest Row, which is like a big Steiner
Yeah.
community. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of like-minded people there, and there's pockets of things like that. I live just north of Austin, Texas, which is kind of become the mecca for both like the technocratic,
Mm.
digital, transhumanist-esque agenda. But on the flip side of that, and I think that's kind of how it works, is like when that rises up, something as the antithesis will rise up with it. And so in this area, there is a lot of people like us. We're a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just an American saying, but we're like, there's so many people like us. And I'm willing to bet there are more like-minded people elsewhere as well, but people feel like there's no way for us to find each other, right? And so what we've done with thewayforward.com is first off, we're a private membership association. So that deters would-be bad actors. We have a very rigorous membership agreement that you have to sign coming into the community to deter would-be bad actors. And we have a map that allows you to instantly find wherever you are like-minded people near you, farms, practitioners of all types, schools, and we've just added restaurants as well. So, and those pieces are continuing to grow. But the point is, we have developed the infrastructure to help people in a very decentralized fashion cultivate like-minded community, because we're not one to tell people how to live, what they need to be doing in their specific area. I don't know what's best for the health and freedom community 2 hours north of me in Dallas, Texas. It's going to be
Yeah.
different than it is for me here where I am. But at the least, we've provided a way where people can easily connect with people in person. So if we're going to use these digital tools, to answer your question in a roundabout way, if we're going to use these digital tools, yes, continue to, get good information, things like that, but let's limit it and let's start trying to cultivate community in person. We've just made it incredibly easy to help people do that, because I can't tell you how many times I've been at an event or a gathering in, somewhere else, and the people there are all like, "Oh my gosh, I love this event so much. I'm dreading going back home, because when I go back home, I feel like I don't have anyone like this around me." And then I say, "Okay, well, where do you live?" Like, "Oh, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, or I live in Chicago, Illinois, or I live in London."
Mm.
Okay. I pull up our platform, show them on the map, "Hey, that's how many people are just like you where you live, just on our platform. And we just launched this like 8 months ago." So as it continues to grow, and as we continue to be those pieces of coherence across the earth, this will continue to grow. So I think, like, for me, my focus is getting people to shift away from the digital space. And if we're going to use digital tools, be mindful about it, but also use them in a way that helps lead us back into in person. I'd say the second part to that question, if I may, I know this is very
Mm.
long-winded,
No, love it. Yeah.
is if we're going to use digital tools, or I guess the best way to put this is, my focus is on helping people understand that old, I think it's a Bertrand Russell quote: "We don't fix the existing system by fighting it. We fix it by making the old system obsolete. And it might not be Bertrand Russell. I forget who it is, but
I
that
know
quote.
the saying well, and I so agree with it. Yeah.
And what that means in effect is knowing that the only way reality changes is by us taking full ownership for ourselves. We can't force other people to change. We can guide them. We can lead a horse to water, so to speak. But shouting down to them with information, pointing at everything that happens in the world and being like, it's a psyop.
Mm.
I don't know that that's effective. I think the most effective thing that we can do is take radical ownership of our beliefs, thoughts, feelings, words, and actions and actually embody the paradigm that we want. Am I perfect in that? No, I'm not. I'm not. But I remember that as a guidepost. I'm a human being though, like just like the rest of us. But I know I've seen too much evidence for this both in my research and also in my life experience that those who are embodying coherence in mind, body, and in spirit, those who are taking ownership of their beliefs, thoughts, feelings, words, and actions, are acting as points of coherence that help overtake and entrain the incoherent people around them to help bring them into coherence as well. I liken it to when I was an evangelical Christian growing up and kind of like the type of Christian that did not behave very Christ-like for 6 days and then went to church on Sundays. Um, but I used to get really frustrated with the quote unquote Christians who would shame other people and try to shove the Bible down their throat
Yeah.
and say you're going to hell if you don't believe that Christ is the Son of God and that He's your Savior. I didn't find that it was effective. In fact, it turned most people in almost all cases off to Christ and His message. The most effective ones in every single instance were the ones who quietly, humbly embodied Christ as best that they could in
Mm.
His message and lived that way. Because what happens is someone looks at an individual like that and says, what's different about him? Why is he so loving? Why is he, despite challenging circumstances, able to persevere and still be grateful? Why does he seem to move through challenging experiences a little bit more? What's different about him? And they start asking questions. Same with us. If we can embody a spiritually grounded, truly freedom oriented, holistic lifestyle as best we possibly can and understand that everyone else is on their own path and the people who have bought into the mainstream narrative and things like this, the people who are divided by the left and the right are ultimately in a way they have fallen for various psyops and we can have grace for that because we were once there too. So the more that we can embody coherence, the more that we can help bring those people into coherence as well. Sorry, that was super long-winded, but that's just
Yeah,
what's on top of my mind.
so important. There's so many things there that I think are so important. I mean, just going on to the coherence side of things, I've got Pumpkin, one of my cats, asleep here, and animals
You have
teach
a
us
cat named Pumpkin as well?
Yeah, have you got a pumpkin?
No, Dr. Cowan has a cat named
Oh,
Pumpkin, Dr. Tom
yes.
Cowan.
I am definitely a crazy cat lady. I attract cats from everywhere. But working with animals, I do a lot of work with animals, and everyone knows you can have the same horse, and one person can even just go out to the field and will not be able to catch the horse because they're reading the energy field, and the other person can go straight up to it and the horse will come to them. Similarly, you can ride the same horse, and one person, this horse will really misbehave and be classified as difficult, and the other one, it would be like a little good as gold horse. And we've all seen this with dogs, children, everything.
Mhm.
So what you were saying, people might think it's woolly. I don't think our audiences is will, but it's so true. And sometimes it's lovely to deflect and pretend it's not true because it can excuse us for some of the results we're getting. So I think the community is absolutely key. I mean, I've found over the last sort of 5 years, most of my connections have been across the globe. And so this year, this last 12 months, I've been actively changing that and saying, no, back to at home And
Yeah.
where are all my local farmers? Where are my local like-minded, funny enough, not necessarily in the way a lot of people would think I'd be looking for. Gone are the days where I want to find out who's vaccinated and who's not. In terms of, are you a good person and are you
Yes.
reliable and does your word mean something?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So, I mean, in this journey and setting up your community, which I think is so, so needed now, because there are a lot of people that feel really lost with that, what have you had to unlearn on the journey? What are some of the key things that you think that you've really had to unlearn yourself?
You're hitting me with the hard ones.
Yeah, sorry,
Um,
going in
it's all
hard.
good. People usually ask me about viruses and stuff. This is a
Yeah,
good change of pace. Um, Man, let me really sit with that so I can answer. Um, so the first thing that's coming up for me is, and I'm still in the process of doing this right now. When you're an entrepreneur, you are only as effective, not only as your level of embodiment, and this is part of embodiment, but to the degree that you value yourself.
mm,
And I'm still unlearning that because I have a lot of programming, and a lot of us do. And entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. And I would say, especially entrepreneurship in the quote unquote truther, health, freedom space, where, you know, it's like a very weird phenomenon that I've witnessed. And I'm sure you've seen the same thing, where a lot of people in this space, on one hand, completely reject communist oriented ideologies,
yeah,
understandably. And on the other hand, the moment you, as an entrepreneur, charge for your services in any way or ask for pay for any of the things that you're doing or ask for support in any of the things that you're doing, people immediately start, excuse my language, bitching
yeah,
at what you're charging for. It almost coming across as if they feel entitled to what you do for free.
absolutely.
And I find that incredibly ironic. And that ties right into the unworthiness programming, the self-worth, self-devaluation issues that I'm still resolving. And I've been open about it. Like I've been very transparent about it on my show, on, various posts I've made on social media and elsewhere. And I think that situations like this that I'm currently in, I was sharing with you offline that I'm currently dealing with some pretty hard financial challenges right
Mm,
now, and that's okay. I know that I'm going to get through it. I know that I will. I've been here before. But I think they come up into my awareness ultimately because at some level it's for me as much
yeah,
as I don't want to see that right now. And because I'm attracting it because there's still pieces of me that doesn't feel worthy to receive,
hmm,
and I think people coming in and saying, I can't believe you're charging for this is another way to test whether I feel worthy enough to stand on, no, my platform, my work that I do is valuable and is worth something. And if you'd like to engage with it, you have to pay. Now, that being said, we charge 8.25 a month for our platform. That's
it's unbelievably
it's
good
nothing.
value. Yeah.
It's nothing. It's pennies. And there are people who genuinely say, I can't afford that. I can't believe why would you make this free? I'm just like, or why wouldn't you make this free? And I look at that as a gift.
Yeah.
And it's hard in those moments where, like, on one hand, you're being met with that, and then also things are like incredibly financially tight, and you're also just wanting to provide value genuinely. Like, I came up with this idea in 2021 because I saw a need for it, and it's been a long road to bring it to fruition, and we finally got it here in the beginning of, I can't believe it's already 2026. In the beginning of 2025, roughly around April 2025, is when we launched it. And it's been a long time coming. We're a small team of 3 people with a couple of contractors working on this thing full time. And, it's, yeah, it's this process has required that I continue to release that unworthiness and feel worthy of receiving. And I think most people struggle with unworthiness to some degree. So that's like one of the biggest things that I've had to unlearn. And I guess with that too is you are worthy to charge for your services. You can only give out so much for free before you absolutely shoot yourself in the foot, especially if you have a team to pay for and a family and kids to provide for.
Yeah.
It is my job as the man to provide for my wife and kids. That's my job.
Mm.
And I have to do whatever I can while staying in integrity, while being on my mission to provide for my wife and kids. And so I think it's like being okay with charging for what you do is another piece of it because I've been hesitant to charge, hesitant to ask for people to pay for various things.
Yeah.
And I'm really learning right now that I have to get over that. And I'd say the third thing that I've learned, especially recently, is that I've needed to swallow my pride and just straight up ask for compensation for the services that I provide for my community because I have 140,000 audio and video downloads on my podcast every month. That's pretty significant, right?
Yeah.
And only a small fraction of those actually convert to support the show because it's supported overwhelmingly by memberships to thewayforward.com. So I've literally asked outright over the last couple of days for support. Not in a, how do I put this? Not in an alarmist way, not in a frantic way, but a very clear, direct, hey, I have not been direct about this. I've been scared to ask for help.
Mm.
And I'm asking you all who support my work to support me so that I can continue. So, yeah,
I
those are
love
the three
it.
things.
I think all of those are so important, and I would agree with all of them. And I think this is a sign of the times that we're living in. I mean, my personal journey with my podcast and speaking out more about all sorts of different issues and really putting myself out there with a lot of the things that I can't even mention because we're going to put this on YouTube that have got my website taken down by the authorities, platforms taken down, and everything
Same.
is I have noticed that almost the more you give out for free and the more people consume online information, almost with a lot of people, the more entitled they can become. And I see that reflecting, I'm a lot older than you, and I can really remember how my parents and my grandparents grew up and how I was brought up, and we never had this sense of entitlement. And now
Mhm.
I look and I think, wow, of course we know a lot of it is by design because it keeps people in a victim mentality. But equally, putting a mirror up, and I mentioned this briefly to you before we started, is I'm taking full responsibility for the fact that I'm attracting that because there's things that I haven't dealt with. Um, and it is hard when you're online and you put yourself out there and you get all the criticisms and you're a grifter and for we
Yeah.
people ask us for solutions, and then if you give solutions that are free, they think that they don't work, like the things we all talk about: grounding, sunlight, water, air, nature, animals. And then if you give them solutions that are chargeable, then that's an issue as well. So how are you, I mean, moving
Can I
forward?
can I comment on that real
Yeah,
quick if you just
please.
save your train of thought? I've thought about this a lot, especially as it pertains to our platform. So maybe that's like a unique situation because it's a form of like a social platform in a way, right? Like
Mm.
obviously with a very strong emphasis on using the maps to connect back in person. But in the digital social media age with information overwhelm, people have become so accustomed to engaging on platforms that they think are free,
Yeah.
like Instagram, like X, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. They think that they're free
Mm.
when the reality is these platforms are harvesting all of their data. And I use them, I'm aware of that.
Mm.
But I understand that, yeah, you think it's free because ultimately you're the product. They're
Absolutely.
using you, they're using your data, they're selling your data to third parties, they're profiling you. So, because of that, unfortunately, people don't think like that. They look at others like us who are trying to charge for various things. And because they've become so accustomed to assuming these platforms are free when they're really not. Again, they're the product. They look at people like us and they naturally have that tendency to assume that they should be getting stuff from us for quote unquote free as well.
That's such a good point. And I think, so many people, particularly our listeners, are so well aware of that. But even if you're aware, there's a difference between sort of weaning yourself off that and sort of saying, look, what I put out there is going to come back at me. And it's so, so important. I mean, there's so many great things you said there. I want to come back to the community side of things. I mean, obviously 2020 was a big reset. Hate using that word, but it was a big reset for so many people. And so a lot of people sort of tried to find their tribe despite all the censorship online, and everyone got very good at talking in code. But what impact did that have on you personally and people that you knew about that then disconnection from perhaps working problems out, perhaps with long-term friends, with family members? I mean, I don't know anyone who's in this space that hasn't had incredibly difficult journeys with family members, with long-term friends, etc., because perhaps sometimes in these areas people don't have those difficult conversations. I would just giving you an example, Alec. When I started, talking a lot more to people in the USA, in the UK, we do not talk about politics anywhere near you guys do. It's just not a thing. I mean, I've lifelong friends and family. I wouldn't have a clue or care or any interest in which way they voted. And so we see these differences, but it's just a different problem in the UK. We'd focus on other issues, and it's the same issues in terms of the divide and conquer. But how have you seen that play out in your own life? What have you learned from that experience, perhaps, of getting your community more online, and what have you lost in the process of that?
Oh, that is a big question. So if I heard you correctly, the question is essentially that what have I lost by over the last few years having formed primarily close friendships that started out online? Is that the question?
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's a big question. I've never like really considered it that way before. Um, I mean, again, not to go back to our platform, but like I think that's why I created it. That's why I came up with the idea because I saw that we were all online. And at that time when I first came up with the idea, so many more people were being deplatformed, censored. I was on my like
Mm.
sixth Instagram account at the time, second YouTube channel,
Yeah, same
had
here.
already been deplatformed from Twitter, PayPal, Venmo, all the things.
Mm.
And, you know, I think what we've lost, oh, I know how to answer this. I'll speak to not what I've lost necessarily. I've really tried to retain this, but what I've seen society lose in this is remembering that there are human beings on the other side of that screen.
Mm.
That video, irrespective of sides, and I can speak to so many different videos coming from the US of that individual being shot and killed, whatever the situation
Mm.
is more than just a political position. That is a human being.
Mm.
All discussions on like whether it's a stage psyop, any of
Yeah.
them aside, assuming some of them are real, that's a real human being that you're talking about.
Mm.
It's not a political position. I think like seeing reality on this over and over again, on this over and over and over again, I think we have severely underestimated the degree to which this colors our day-to-day perception with this.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is like, obviously, we saw that during COVID. I think COVID was very much a digital phenomenon. Eric Coppolino, he's an investigative journalist out of the Northeast in the United States. He describes how they attempted the same thing with HIV/AIDS, but it didn't take off near as much because we were still analog then.
Yeah.
We're digital now. And this colors our perception way more than we're willing to lend credence to. Take for example, right? Like For the overwhelming majority of people in our immediate environment, if we just shut this off for some time, we are totally fine.
Yep.
We are completely fine. Everything is great. Yes, there's some stuff being sprayed in the skies and things like this. There's some problems, don't get me wrong, but overwhelmingly, everything is fine. But
Mm.
then we are hyper fixated on this, scrolling. Oh, that's a funny video. Haha. Oh my God. That dude was shot in the head. Next one. Next one. Oh my God. My algorithm is showing me that radical Islam is taking over everywhere. I'm gonna watch that video to its full length. Oh, now the algorithm knows that that's the type of content that I'm interested in. So it's going to show me more of that, more of that, more of that. And I start approaching my immediate reality as if what I just saw on this screen is a direct threat to my immediate reality here and right now, wherever I am across the world. Is radical Islam taking over in some places? Yes, I completely acknowledge that. Is you know, you could insert anything in place of
Yeah.
radicalism, right? But the point that I'm getting at is we don't, we underestimate how much that is coloring our day-to-day perception right here. And then if you, as I've come to understand, how this reality is, how this reality conducts itself, I truly believe that we are all co-creating this experience to some degree,
Yeah.
right? When you are taking that into your being, it's imprinting upon the waters of your body. It's imprinting into your subconscious. You're giving it conscious thought and you're focused on it. And then other people around you might be doing the same thing. You're actually helping to perpetuate that very thing that you're focused on and bring it into being in the place that you're standing in, although it wasn't there before.
Mm.
And when we're hyper focused on this, we not only help create that here in this reality, wherever you are in the present moment, but we also help or disconnect from what's actually going on in the present reality in our immediate environment. So we're bringing this digital information and projecting it into our current reality, all while, for the most part, completely ignoring the things that are happening in our immediate environment. Like most people can name every psyop that is occurring across the world right now, or every event that's occurring across the world, and they have no freaking clue what the water department is doing in their local town or village or city. Have no clue.
Completely.
No idea.
Mm.
They can name every psyop that has occurred with Donald Trump or Joe Biden or what's going on with the Epstein files. And don't get me wrong, there might be some relevance there. I mean, obviously there is, but they can name everything about that, but can't tell you what pesticides are being sprayed down the street on the farm that's a couple miles away.
Completely.
No
Or
clue.
what their children are learning at school.
Exactly.
Mm. No, it's so, so true. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot because I'm quite lucky in terms of the way I've set up my life because I've got so many animals to look after and, the children who are big now, but elderly mother and things like this. If she's watching, she'll be cross that I've called her elderly. Very young, sprightly mother. Um, in-laws, all sorts of things. Everyone watching this has got, as you go through life, you get different stages. You've got young children. My children aren't young anymore. I can still remember that stage very well. But now I've got some very old horses, which is very different to looking after young horses, a lot more effort. And I think it is so hard. In one respect, on this spiritual journey, it's all about be here now, live in the moment, and then yet we're so focused on what's coming and everything, and it's a very hard balance for people, isn't it? It's a very hard balance when actually, if a lot of the time people weren't focusing on these things, everyone could have their own vegetable garden growing already.
Yep. 100%. Exactly. I
Mm.
think like, and I still fall for some of that stuff too. I do.
Oh, me
Like, don't get
too.
me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and luckily I have this thought, the things that I've just shared in the back of my mind as a constant reminder, like why am I giving this attention? And I will say some of the times I find myself giving some of those things more attention because there is something in my immediate environment or something inside me that I don't want to feel.
Yeah,
There's something inside of me that I do not want to feel, an emotion that I don't want to sit with, a repetitive thought pattern that keeps coming back. So I'm trying to avoid it. And instead of resolving it, pick up a distraction to turn away from it. That's what phones have become for a lot of people.
completely. I mean, I can still, my son's just gone off for 2 years and he's left his girlfriend at home. And, it was quite difficult for them because they've been living together. And I was saying, when I went off traveling and I left my boyfriend at home, who's now my husband, we had no internet. I'm that old. We had no internet. We had no mobile phones. I wrote letters. So from Australia, he'd write me, he'd guess which route I was going and send a letter to the post office and hope I got it. And I did. It was incredible. And the younger generation can't believe that we survived like this. But we did. And I'll tell you what it's really made me think is your word meant so much more. If you said to your friend, I'm going to be outside the cinema at 7 o'clock on Friday, you were outside the cinema on 7 o'clock on Friday. It was a different sort of commitment that you knew you had to keep, otherwise there'd be really serious implications for the other people. And I think when I look now, most of our listeners are very well aware of the food crisis. I honestly, because I work with horses and I could see the effect of glyphosate and the other pesticides so quickly, because animals are sort of a bit like the canary in the cage. They show
Yeah, for sure.
these issues so much quicker. And everything's like, no, it says it's safe for animals, and the animals are dropping like flies. And now everyone, I think, don't think there's anyone watching this will not realize how bad most of our food chain is. But actually, if we'd have listened to ourselves and looked at the symptoms earlier, we could see this. So it's not about throwing all the technology away. And that's why I love your platform so much, because it's a way to connect and get what you need out of it. When you need it, because your needs will change at different times in your life. And moving forward, if we get more censorship coming, which I very strongly believe is, it's going to be imperative that you've made those connections locally to you.
100%. I think that's like one of the things. We have 2,000 members on the platform, and we're really grateful for that because it just launched just over 8 months ago. So 2,000 is great. But
Brilliant.
I think that there's not as much of a sense of urgency, not that it needs to be a fear thing for why you should get on this platform, but had this same thing launched back in 2021,
Mm.
like everyone would have been hopping on it. And, we tried to back then, but it's been a long process of getting it, created. Um, but it doesn't even necessarily have to be like a sense of urgency thing. It's like if you are listening or watching this right now and you realize, yeah, like I am very hyper fixated into the digital space and I really should find local community around me. I'm not even saying that my platform is the only way to do that either. Of course it's not. There are plenty of other ways. There's Weston A. Price chapters across the world. There's other health freedom organizations. There's local health freedom organizations, maybe your local health food store, although double maskers also tend to shop there. It's like such a
Yeah.
weird paradox when someone is like very big about eating only organic food while double masking and getting multiple jabs. I've never quite understood how that, mindset works. Anyway, it's like th- there's we need each other. We need each other, quite
We do.
literally. Community is literally essential for health. Sean Stevenson, who runs the Model Health Show, I don't remember the exact study. I briefly looked at it, but he put out a post around 3 months ago, and I think it was related to blue zones specifically. And a lot of people talk about how like blue zones, there's a lot of evidence certain specific diets are the best to follow because of what blue zones indicate. And this study, if I remember it correctly, showed something a little bit different. It said the strongest indicator for health and longevity was your community
Yeah.
and your relationships.
And your role within that. The fact that
Yep.
you've got a role within that community was absolutely vital. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And one of the beauties of what COVID gave me and a lot of my friends is, there have been a lot of people were quite judgmental about different jobs and hierarchies and often judged about who earned what money, particularly where I live, it's that sort of area. Well, it sort of is, but it's very much country folk as well. And like nowadays, I think everyone realizes the people they value the most are the farmers, the builders, the carpenters, the ones with the real practical life skills. Certainly not, if the shit hits the fan, if you phone things, you don't need a banker.
No.
you,
Hell,
you need a
that's the
farmer,
last thing
not a
you
banker.
need.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's been a really great leveler in terms of that, and I think it's very, very important.
Yeah.
I just wanted to take a quick break in this episode to tell you about something that has been an absolute game changer in my life and that of my family and all my clients. So what if you could carry a protective high energy field everywhere you go? Turn your home and phone into a high consciousness sanctuary in minutes. Have you ever noticed how some places lift you up and others drain you? A walk in nature, a sacred site, time with animals or high vibe people, you feel clear, calm and alive. And then you step into a noisy, stressed place, phones, Wi-Fi, blue light, fear in the air and your energy tanks. So what if you could take that uplifting field with you? Well, you can, and it's called FLFE, Focus Life Forced Energy. Using advanced, non-invasive tech, FLFE creates a high consciousness field around your home, workplace and phone, or even a personal object. No extra routines, no extra things to do. Once it's on, it runs 24/7 in the background of life and you have complete control of it. People report things like deeper, more restful sleep, calmer emotions and less stress, sharper focus and productivity, and really importantly, support for harmonizing EMFs in your environment. Think of it like carrying the feeling of your favorite nature spot on demand while you commute, parent, work, or rest. And the best part is you can try absolutely free for 15 days, no credit card required. You can experience a shift for yourself. So please do check out the link below, turn it on for your home and your phone and feel the difference and decide for yourself. We take our energy everywhere and we absorb energy everywhere. So make sure yours is coherent, protective and high vibe with FLFE. Try it free for 15 days, no card, and the link's in the description. Now back to the podcast.
Totally agree. Totally
Yeah.
agree.
So in terms of what you're seeing right now, I mean, one of the things I personally find difficult, and I think a lot of my listeners do, is getting this balance right, particularly when you've got a family like both of us have, about how do you work at it with trying to keep the balance of being aware enough to try and make the best decisions for your family, but not so far down the rabbit hole like I've definitely been in the past, where it's all consuming and it's not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak to my own direct experience.
Mm.
Everyone's going to have to choose that balance that's best for them. For me, that balance looks like knowing just enough to have a good idea of what's going on. For example, like I know that there's a strong push, direction, orientation towards digital IDs.
Yeah.
That's become pretty clear. You can just do a cursory glance at some of the information that's out there to come to that understanding, right? Um, I know that there seems to be, at least in the US, uh, it's so interesting. I almost said we, and
Mm.
it's like the degree to which so many of us still self-identify with government, like our government is insane. Like, you would be, it'd be like
I
if you
am not
said,
identifying with mine. No
no,
way.
I don't either, but like I
Yeah,
still say
I
we,
know.
like we
Yeah.
are, like we just announced, but no.
Mm.
Um, the government just announced that the budget for the US military is $1.5 trillion.
Mm.
Okay, they had just shifted from being called the Department of Defense to the Department of War. Lots of stuff going on in Venezuela. Lots of stuff going on between Russia and Ukraine right now. Lots of stuff going on off the coast of China and in between China and Taiwan. So there seems to be a lot of um, tension happening in the world right now, right? So I know just enough to know that that's happening. And from there, I don't feel the need to pry and poke and prod anymore. Now, as things happen, it's just whether I personally feel inspired to speak on it or not, right? Like, for example, when I saw the Venezuela thing happening, I knew that the US had already imposed sanctions on Venezuela in the past, which ultimately caused its economy to tank. And I'm not saying that Maduro wasn't a sort of dictator. But so when I saw that uh, the Trump administration was making a strong push towards pursuing Venezuela under the guise of protecting Americans against an evil drug lord, and I had saw somewhere else Derek Bros put out that in their actual report regarding drugs entering the United States, there was no discussion of fentanyl coming from Venezuela. Yes, there was cocaine coming from Venezuela, but there's cocaine coming from lots of places in Central and South America. And so tying all that together, I just briefly like did a little bit more digging and found that the Trump administration had received $93 million from oil and gas companies and executives. So then I looked into how much oil Venezuela actually has. 303 billion barrels of oil, which is some of the biggest oil reserves in the world.
Yeah.
And so that's the level of research I did on that and just made a post about it and was like, okay, that I felt was helpful to get people to understand, okay, this is just another example of going to war under the guise of defending freedom or defending Americans or defending against whatever it is, the boogeyman, terrorists or drugs or anything like that. And there might be some truth to that in some situations, but definitely overinflating it when the reality is it's for something else.
Yeah.
And so that's the level of research I did on that. And then from there, it's like, okay, I see all these things coming. Aside from sharing my perspective online, which doesn't take that much time, okay, I can do that. What can I do in my immediate environment to ensure that my family is okay? That looks like growing food. That looks like getting to know your local farmers. That looks like forming local connections with small businesses, with people who have resources, forming local community of like-minded people so that if something does happen or if shit does hit the fan, so to speak, in a very bad way, similar to, the COVID era or something like that, all good. I have all my people around me. I have all my resources around me. I have my local farmers. I'm growing food in my backyard. I have a rainwater catchment system set up. Whatever it is for you. I can't speak to what is best for you. I can't speak to your environment, your experience, where you are, the people around you. Whatever is best for you, that's what you focus on. Your immediate environment, what you can control, which starts with your beliefs, thoughts, feelings, words, actions. It starts with your family, then it extends into your friend group, and it extends into your local community, and from there, it extends into the rest of the world. But we've got it flipped where most of us don't even consider our beliefs, thoughts, feelings, words, actions, and we're just glued to what's going on here so that we then take that in and help co-create more of it, and then we're frozen and not in action. We're just obsessively focused on this, consuming more of it.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. And I think so many people, you can see the panic rising again, I think, online in terms of a lot of people feel very unprepared. Everyone's pushing gold and silver. I love to say two things can be true. Well, lots of things can be true. Gold and silver can be great, but not everyone can afford it. So just leave it and move on. Don't focus on what you can't have. That's the biggest trick out. So where would you see, what have you learned over the last few years in particular about the mind control tactics that are used so effectively against all of us? I mean,
one is an example of what I just
Yeah.
said earlier, right? Like, and so many of us do this. Like, how many times when someone is having a casual conversation, they say, "Oh yeah, we are sending troops to so and so place." We,
Yeah,
Do you
we're
make that
not.
decision? Like, and I've spoken about that, and I
Yeah.
still sometimes do it. Like I'm self-identifying with the US government's actions, conflating my identity as an American, meaning that I live on this land and share common customs and values with the people who live here, with government. So then saying we are doing this. I'm not doing that.
Mm.
Whatever the UK government does, you're not doing any of that. You're not making those decisions. So I would say like that's a perfect example, honestly. And like that just shows the level of conditioning because I still sometimes say that.
Yeah,
I'm not, we self-identify with government. Likewise, we self-identify with a politician. We self-identify with other political figures. We self-identify with our beliefs.
yeah,
And I'm not saying that that isn't or that's a bad thing necessarily to some degree. Like that gives you uniqueness. Um, but who we truly are is so much deeper than any of those superficial labels. And I think like the biggest thing now is using social media algorithms. The biggest element of mind control is using social media algorithms to both show things that confirm one's own biases based on their political preferences, things like this, while simultaneously showing them the most extreme versions of anyone who thinks differently than they do.
completely.
And that just deepens the divide. And then in addition to that, the dehumanizing nature that I spoke of earlier, where you're not seeing a person with complex thought patterns, with a history that may have led them to form the perspective that they currently have. Also, the understanding that they are also being conditioned and propagandized to believe certain things based on those same social media algorithms that I just talked about. You're just seeing someone who holds a perspective different than your own. And so you immediately lash out at them or you immediately other them instead of remembering that that's a human being. That's a human being on the other end of that. Maybe sometimes it's an AI bot.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe a lot of the times it's an AI bot. It's also good to know that like some of the times people are coming at you very aggressively online or posting aggressive things online, very inflammatory things. They could be like purposeful AI bots that are trying to just inflame a situation. But I'd say like that's where the mind control is headed right now is all the things I've spoken about, like how much our perception of our physical reality is being driven by what we are consuming digitally for better and for worse, because it can be for better too. Like when I
Yeah.
go watch a video of Veda Austin, I'm like, oh man, reality is so beautiful, you know? Or like any of your podcast episodes or a lot of my podcast episodes. And
It's so
that's why,
true.
yeah, and that's
That.
why I try to have conversations that are more of that
Mm.
nature on my show and talk about things that are more of that nature because that's what the world needs to hear, in my opinion.
Oh, it's so true. There's so much. I mean, now that we know that everything we've been taught is a lie virtually and inverted, I find that really exciting because so much, I can remember getting sent to the back of the class at school because when we were learning about World War II, I asked the teacher, and I was only about 8 or 9 at the time, and I asked the teacher, I said, well, are the German teach children learning the same thing? And
You
she
said that?
answered yes. And I got
Wow.
sent to the back of the class for that because obviously that wasn't constructive. But I find it so exciting that actually now we can discover what's really, because let's face it, what most people have been taught has not served them that well so
Totally.
far. So fantastic, great, find what does. It's absolutely brilliant. I want to ask you more about, I'm conscious of time, so I want to ask you a little bit more about the platform. If
Yeah.
someone's listening to this, now there's going to be a link below, everyone. Have a link, have a good look. But if someone's sitting there and thinking, right, really, what's in it for me to join this? But also, I think it's a great question for you to answer for people. How are they going to be helping others by joining it as well?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. So, what's in it for you? Again, if you're looking for a way to easily connect with health and freedom and consciousness oriented people, I guess you could just say people who get it. Still trying to come up with an effective term to describe like the cross section of that. Because the people who are tend to be attracted to our platform are not the black pilled,
Yeah.
like obsessive, everything's a psyop, everyone with a platform, Catherine and Alec are controlled opposition because they have
Yeah.
a platform type people. Luckily, those types of people aren't on our platform. They're the
Yeah.
people who understand that we've been lied to tremendously, understand that virtually everything that's taught in the mainstream and a lot of the alternative media is
Oh,
not
so
true,
much. Yeah.
but are on a childlike pursuit of trying to determine what is about this reality and about ourselves.
Mm.
And I mean that in a way that they're approaching it with childlike wonder and awe, not, oh, we've been lied to. Everything is a psyop. What else are they lying about? But like, okay, we've been lied to. They don't know what's going on. But I have a deep feeling that this reality is so much more beautiful
Mm.
and so much more magnificent, and that I am so much more beautiful and so much more magnificent and powerful than I've ever been conditioned to believe in. And I'm on the pursuit of trying to figure out how this works, how reality works, and how they relate together. I would say that those are the type of people who end up on our platform. So it's definitely not for, although we do welcome people who are the more black pill type that I said earlier. Now, what you'll get is you'll get a like functioning community of people inside, and then you'll get a way to easily connect with using a very easy to use map, like-minded people, practitioners, farms, schools, restaurants, and more in your local area, no matter where you are across the world. Now, across most of non-English speaking countries, there's not as many people, and it's also because we're a relatively new platform. It's only 2,000 people that are on it right now. But in the UK, in Ireland, in all of North America, in Australia, and then scattered parts of Europe and places like Costa Rica and things like this, where there's a lot of English speaking people who've moved there, there's a like strong presence on our platform. So that's what you'll find inside. And then, of course, there's social functionality. Of course, we're a small team. We're never going to compete with someone like Instagram or Facebook or something like that. And that's just the reality, and that's okay. But
Thank goodness. Yeah. Don't try and recreate Instagram. Yeah.
right, exactly. And also with that, we're not freaking harvesting your data. We're not profiling you. This is so funny. Can I comment on this real quick? Someone the other day, because I put out a post on my Instagram stories, I was like, if you've been considering joining our platform, but you haven't joined yet, what is your hesitation?
Mm.
And someone commented, how is this not just a government watch list? And I made a video response and I was like, my dear brother in Christ,
Mm.
you really believe that our small team of 3 people is the government watch list and not the sophisticated multi-billion dollar social media companies that have these algorithms that know exactly who you're messaging,
Yeah.
exactly what accounts you follow, your exact keystrokes, the exact people that you're messaging, and have known ties to government agencies. You really think that we're the ones that are like that? And the irony is this dude was commenting this on Instagram.
I know
I'm
it's
like,
hysterical. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, you
Yeah.
think we're the ones and not that? And so, and then the other addition to that is like we have this rigorous member agreement that deters would-be agents from entering. Um, so yeah, sorry, that was like a long-winded
No,
answer,
but
but
I saw that and I think it is hysterical. But I would also add that, you if people are watching this and they want to contribute, other people on the platform need you. They need to know you're there. So don't just do it for yourself, do it for other people as well, because that's how the communities really grow and support each other. And it's so, so important. You might be thinking about, oh, is it a priority for me? But there might be someone really local to you that really needs to connect with you.
yeah, we had someone join yesterday, and I've been talking with my team because the one thing that is a little bit frustrating is the lack of, again, I'm comparing it to like Facebook and
Mm.
Instagram, the lack of social functionality where like it's dialed in as much as Facebook and Instagram are. That's just not going to happen. But we're exploring creative ways to help make it better. Operating with a very slim
Mm.
budget for our web team right now. That's okay. It'll change hopefully. But my team member reminded me, she's like, Alec, you have to understand, as an example, someone just joined yesterday and sent a message and said, and they're in a rural area in like Wyoming, I think. So there's very few people in Wyoming as it is, and it's a massive state in the United States. They're like, I found one like-minded person where I live, and even that has made this platform worth it and more. Now, again, if you're in like London,
Mm,
really all of the UK, if you're in Chicago or the surrounding areas, anywhere in Texas, really, a lot of these more populated areas, you will absolutely find someone next to
mm,
you, like where you live within a 30-mile radius. But the point that I'm getting at is even with the social functionality not being as dialed in as Facebook and Instagram and things like this, it's worth it just to find people who are like, oh, I get it. And you know pretty darn well that if they're on the way forward platform, there's someone who really gets it, like who really, really,
yeah.
really.
Who's really curious. I mean, that's what I love is that curiosity and not pretending to have all the answers, but loving answering the questions in a way that's really trying to make everything better for all creatures, great and small, So,
Amen.
which leads me to a question I really want to ask you. I don't know how much into animals you are, but I know that you've really been exploring and diving deep into the telepathy side of things, the children seeing blindfolded and things. And, I've been working with animal communication for years. I've been talking to chews for years, much to my children's horror. But animals often show system breakdowns before humans do. But also they often show a lot more solutions and resilience than a lot of humans do. How do you see animals sort of fitting into teaching us about some of our lost abilities, for example, and what we can learn from them in the future?
That is a deep question. I've literally never thought about that before. Hmm. I mean, animals can instantaneously pick up the energetics of an individual or a situation between other individuals. Like animals, when a natural disaster occurs,
Mm,
are all acting prior to the natural disaster actually occurring. They can sense it. And this is a known phenomenon, right?
mm,
I am thoroughly convinced that we all have those exact abilities innate to us. And I would say even above and beyond animals. Not that we're better or superior, but I think most of us can recognize that human beings are unique in our ability to imagine something and then create it,
yeah,
versus animals tend to be more instinctual. So if we can get back to a deep connection with ourselves and with the earth, and also sort of unite that, marry that with our ability to imagine, to co-create, I think that we're just scratching the surface on our true capabilities. And I think to answer your question, animals are a reminder of that, especially mammals, I'd say. And especially our pets too. Like, gosh, I have you ever heard like how especially dogs, I would say, can carry the trauma of their owners. It's like they take on the emotional baggage of their owners into their bodies, and that's how dogs end up dying a
oh,
little
I
bit
see
earlier.
it
And
all the time. Yeah,
right, right. And I think like what that is, I mean, it's sort of teetering on self-sacrifice, but dogs especially represent the best version of unconditional love and
yeah.
acceptance. Um, Cats tend to be a little bit less unconditionally loving and accepting. So I don't know, maybe take on the stance where you're balancing your inner cat and dog and learn from both of them.
Completely. That's why I've got so many of each of them. And yet you made me laugh with that because I learned so much about boundaries from cats and about being honest and open about what you want, which brings us full circle back to what we're talking about to begin with. I mean, cats are unapologetic about, yeah, no, that's what I want, and you're going
You
to
have you have
deliver it.
two kids, right?
I've got two, yeah.
Okay, would you say that there's an animal archetype for each of them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I really
Yeah.
would. Yeah. I for
Yeah, like my
every
my son,
human. Yeah.
my son, for example, my oldest, dog.
Yeah.
Like the sweetest kid ever. No body awareness whatsoever. I'm thinking like a
Yeah.
bigger dog that thinks he's a lap dog. That's my son. That's my 8-year-old. My second, my daughter, cat.
Yeah,
Her first word when she came or when she started speaking, really like as she came out the womb, was no.
yeah,
And she's like the type of kid where it doesn't matter if it's a relative or someone like that, someone she's known for a while or some random stranger. If they're like, "Hey, can I have a hug?" No,
no,
with a
yeah,
straight face. And it's almost like it's scary how sure she is of her own
yeah,
no, but it's like, "Oh shit, okay."
yeah.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's absolute. I love it. I love it. Love it. I love seeing how children and animals respond to people. It's just perfect. So, and I think that we have got so much more. I think really think that they can lead us back to a lot of our abilities that we have lost. And if we did and didn't see ourselves so much as separate from nature, I mean, it's one of my biggest hates that people always talk about humanity, and I'm like, hello, there's a lot more on this planet than humanity. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, how exciting. Wait till you get guinea pigs. They're amazing.
I've
It's,
never had guinea pigs.
I've still got lots. I love them.
Okay.
Yeah,
How
just
many animals do you have?
I've got they're all from come from troubled backgrounds, everything. So I'm just down to 5 cats now, 4 cats now. I've just lost my eldest,
Oh,
which is
I'm
very
sorry.
upsetting. 2 dogs, 3 horses, 4 guinea pigs, and lots of wildlife at the moment.
What
So
type of dogs do you have?
I've got two. Oh, I'll have to send you a picture afterwards. They are amazing. They're from Romania. They're rescues from Romania, and they are like little wolves, really. They are just incredible. They howl like wolves if I play meditation music or they hear certain noises.
Wow.
They're the fittest, most energetic. They've come with so much trauma there. I mean, I've been working therapeutically with natural remedies with animals for years, but every animal has taught me so much, and they've taught me because I've never had such traumatized dogs ever. And if you saw them now, it is just so rewarding.
That's
Um,
beautiful.
but yeah, I'll send you a picture because how can I? One's a bit, they're sisters, even though they were just raised in a great big rescue home together. And one's a little bit like a small German Shepherd cross wolf, and one's a bit more, a little bit like a husky cross wolf. But they're incredible. They're beautiful, and the way they move is incredible. And then I've got a 35-year-old Shetland pony
That's awesome.
and a pony wild off the New Forest that's lived wild for the first 4 years of his life, which is, I mean, look, when you get the animals in your house, I've got 2 cats, 2 dogs, and 1 pony that live wild for the start of their life. You know, they were street dogs, street cats, or wild horse. They are a different level of learning completely to ones that have been born in captivity.
I bet. Oh my
It's
gosh.
just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
oh, Alec,
we have a
oh,
sorry,
carry
go
on.
ahead.
What have you got?
Well, so I was gonna say we have a golden doodle, a big one, so not a like mini golden doodle.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting when my wife was pregnant with our third, before she was even like showing that she had a belly, anytime she was laying down on the couch or wherever else, he would come rest and put his head like right on her belly. And he
Oh,
hadn't done that really before. And then when she was in labor, we did a home birth. Our dog is usually like very rambunctious, super sweet, but very high energy, rambunctious, like tries to jump on you, tries to sit on your lap. When he saw that my wife was in labor, he like knew to stay outside of the bedroom completely.
yeah.
And he would just come peek his head in the entryway to the bedroom. And then we'd be like, it's okay, Winnie. And then he would just go back to where he was and he'd come check every like 20 minutes, every 30 minutes. He wouldn't come in, whereas
Yeah.
typically he would always come in and just jump on the bed. He'd just look and then go back away. So it's just crazy how intuitive they are.
It's
It's
just
incredible.
amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Well, I've enjoyed this so much. One final question then. If people are listening to this, is there one question you wish more people were asking themselves at the moment, right here, right now?
Mm. Who am I being on a day-to-day basis? More than that, like, because that implies you need to consider the past and the future. Who am I being right now? You might notice some tension in your body. Why do I feel that tension? What is my physiology trying to express about my psyche, about my spirit?
Mm.
What's at odds inside me Am I adding to the chaos of the world in this moment, or am I adding to the coherence of the world in this moment? And if we could remember to ask ourselves that question in each and every moment and to choose coherence, which requires that you feel the emotions that are present. If you feel anger right now, feel it. If you feel sad right now, feel it. And then come back to stillness, come back to coherence. It's a choice. It's a choice in each and every moment. Am I perfect? No, absolutely not. But I try to remember that. So I think if more of us, especially in the health, truth, freedom, consciousness space, the ones who are more quote unquote aware of what's going on, can remember that that is the antidote to what's going on, is becoming the best versions of ourselves, the most coherent versions of ourselves. I think we can turn all of this nonsense that's happening in the world around and create the more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible.
I love it. What a perfect way to end. Thank you so much, Alec. Now, all of Alec's links will be below. Look, we need this community. Please, 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 everyone who's watching this or listening to this, whatever platform, go and have a look at the Way Forward community, because we need you. We all need you to connect and contribute. And thank you so much, Alec. And until next time.
Thank you so
Bye.
much, Catherine. It was a pleasure.
Bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. And above all, stay curious and stay free.